how overemployed programmers are earning multiple full-time salaries. I wonder how much longer this will last. Almost every one of these places is going through layoffs now. They're cutting back or doing hiring freezes or doing layoffs, and they're trying to do more return to office stuff. But there has been an era. Oh, let's watch it. It's actually can be interesting.
So you've been working from home, and over time you got very efficient at doing your job. On one hand, you could work harder, but what's the point? You can't really get a promotion for 2 more years. So what you end up doing is mostly browsing Reddit and playing video games.
The trick is to turn that second part into a job. Bada bing, bada boom, baby.
That is until you stumble upon a website called overemployed.com. Turns out there's a massive group of people, mostly programmers, working multiple jobs at the same time, with some working up to 5 jobs at once, earning over $1 million a year.
So yes, I had 2 full-time remote 6-figure positions at the same time. They didn't know about each other, and it completely changed my life.
Is it legal to like mislead? I can't tell. Why not? I guess why not, right? I guess you're right. Why not? But I feel like if your employer doesn't know and they sign an employment contract and I feel like there's some kind of fraud.
You get a severance package. But why are these people mostly programmers? Well, it's not just because a lot of programming jobs were remote even before COVID, but you also get uniquely good compensation, and programming environments, especially agile ones, they're results oriented, meaning you don't have to clock in and clock out as long as you get your work done. So we're gonna dive into the dark arts of being overemployed. Just 8% of tech workers are feeling confident in their job, and 92% are insecure, said the CEO of the company Blind. And more than 32,000 people have been laid off from the tech industry this year.
If you guys haven't used Blind, it's like an anonymous app for workers, I think mostly in Silicon Valley, to complain about their jobs and to ask about interview techniques and stuff like that. I remember Blind was very popular at Twitch. When I worked at Twitch, everybody was on Blind, and it was like the most negative shit. I mean, it was everything from like, dude, people are having sex in the break room, what the hell's going on, to like, we're not getting paid enough, what the management doing? See, it's very toxic. It's very toxic, and it's hard. Like, even good things were getting completely roasted. If you spend too much time on Blind at a company, you'll always feel like the company is completely that everyone is completely vile and your coworkers are all nasty people and your boss are like, some of it is true, but Blind does not have a lot of positive outlook.
Companies are looking out for their own survival, and the casualty is often people's livelihood.
True.
So to take things into your own hands and become financially free, you decide to become overemployed. Here's a 5-step plan. Carl Janssen on Quora wrote, "I don't understand how it would be possible to have 2 jobs. What if your 2 companies schedule a conflicting meeting?"
Yeah, that's my first
Well,
question.
Overemployed's got your back because they have a cheat sheet
Dude,
of
this feels
meeting excuses, how to reschedule, and even how to join 2 at the same time. One of the excuses rated very effective is saying you're putting down your head to work more can even work in your favor and get your reputation as someone who doesn't like to waste time. As for joining 2 meetings at once, well, one technique is to wear a headphone in each ear and then mute microphones back and forth when you, for example, hear your name.
So this is true because most meetings, for most people, you don't talk for much of it. It's like a lot of people talking, and at some point you have to say your piece. All the other time is mostly dead air. So I mean, you could be in 2 meetings at once and easily not overlap.
Skeptics also say, can you really keep up the facade of working 4 hours a day when everyone else is working 8? Well, you have to be okay with being below average at one of your jobs and the very real possibility of getting fired at any time. But for a lot of companies, a low productivity engineer, given the difficulty to find one, is better than having no engineer at all. But
because they're so afraid of like having to do the hiring process again.
Let's move on to step 2, because not every job is going to be good for overemployment. In fact, some companies are going to find out very quickly, and those are the ones you want to avoid. Anytime you get a red flag of micromanagement, that's when you want to back off and maybe not go for that one. The consensus is contractor jobs are better because they pay you higher cash, and usually equity is not going to pay for a period of time. So if you do end up getting fired, you want to get...
Bro, I feel like if you're doing 4 or 5 contractor jobs, you're just working really hard. You know what I'm saying? Because contract jobs kind of pay by result. So you have to actually get something done. That's just doing a lot of work. That's not a scam at all. You're just a very busy freelancer. Yeah, exactly. That's not a scam, dude. That's just fucking really, really grustling. The only way it's like a scam, if it's like a life hack or whatever, is if you have like multiple salary jobs where you're finding a way to seem busy at all of them, but obviously only doing a little work for each. That's the only way.
A medium or senior skill level, you want to go for jobs that are punching below your weight. And the reason is people want to think you're less skilled than you actually are, so you can be more productive with less time. It's very tempting to go for 2 extremely high paying jobs, but it's better to have 2 or even 3 jobs that pay slightly less, because when you add them together, you're still going to make more salary. In other words, adding 2 junior positions together is going to be higher than 1 senior position. An anonymous software engineer told the Economic Times that he was interviewing for jobs and got 2 different remote offers. So instead of turning one down, he just said, hey, let's give this a try. And he's been working for 2 non-conflicting Silicon Valley companies ever since, but the thought of termination does keep him up at night.
What do they do? What do they do for their LinkedIn and like their, I don't know, their profiles places? What do they say for where they're currently working?
Now for step 3, the legal implications. But realistically, the worst that's probably going to happen is you get fired, which is the next step, which is creating a risk-reward trade-off in your head. In other words, thinking what is the worst that's going to happen.
So I got caught. I tried to work 2 full-time jobs at the same time.
Okay.
And they found out.
Yes, people do get caught, but sometimes can even frame it as a positive. According to Jérôme Coquier on Quora, there's so many companies out there, you can just burn bridges and cut ties, even if the worst case scenario happens. It's most interesting.
I mean, with bigger, like if you do it with like fucking, I don't know, Google, Apple, Amazon, that's a pretty big bridge to burn. But if you were doing it with startups, bro, 90% of them fail anyway. You could work at like 14 startups and just know for a fact they're going to be out of business in 2 years anyway. So just take the money. The company won't even exist. There's nothing to hold you to account.
Now, while this guy seems extremely naturally stress tolerant, not all of us are. So step number 5 is dealing with the stress on an ongoing basis. And this one's not going to be so positive, so you might want to turn off the video now if you're thinking of doing this seriously. One Temple University student had a bitter experience saying, please don't try this. You will fail. As I tried working 2 jobs remotely, and despite being in different time zones, the stand-up meetings, that is the daily meetings, were at the same time. Needless to say, it raised my anxiety levels and made me look like a fool. Now I quit.
It's like this sitcom trope of the guy on 2 dates at once. You're just answering the call and talking about the wrong fucking business. Yeah, that would be embarrassing.
One of the jobs, and I feel much better, because the day you could get caught could be any day. But imagine this, what if your company found out and they actually didn't care? Or what if you told them?
So for the past 6 or 7 months, my manager knew that I was working full-time for another company and still let me keep my job working for him.
A YouTuber,
Jeez.
Random Tech Thoughts, said, just inform your employer. Stress is going to eat you alive if you don't. And they might need you enough where it would
Inform
be
your
okay.
employer is
I mean,
kinda
think
crazy,
about how
right?
many people a manager has to interview to hire someone, and they also have to pay for those jobs. A recruiter's probably getting paid, and maybe even a recruitment agency too. But if we think too long down that thread, it can bring us to a sobering realization. The people on the other side of this raw deal are people too. Engineering manager Chris Hansen hired a new programmer and noticed he was acting strange, missing meetings without excuses. He soon found out this person had not left their previous job. So how did this manager play this situation? Well, he was extremely angry, but he didn't actually say anything because, in his words, it would have been like cutting his own arm off. Better to have someone than no one. And you gotta feel bad for this engineering manager or any product managers too, because if you get one or more of these people on your team, well, your projects are not gonna get completed. Not to mention the most innovative companies of our time, things that improve our life like Airbnb, well, they didn't get to where they were by having a lot of people who were just trying not to get fired.
Why is that a random Airbnb plug? They're not the most innovative company of our time. They're fucking house rentals. Why was that the fucking example? Airbnb?
While the overemployed movement is definitely an interesting case study, the reasons for it affecting the people around you, affecting a company who's giving you a shot and is trusting you, now that could be important to you too, or this could all be overshadowed by the fact that getting to financial freedom can lead you to the life you actually want to be living, even if you got to step on some toes on the way.
You know what? Actually, I don't blame anybody at all. It's up to the company. If the company thinks it's in their best interest to fire you, they'll fire you, right? Do what you think is best for you. They'll do the best for them. If you're bad at your job from the 2 jobs, then they'll fire you. If you're good enough, then they'll keep you. Like, what the fuck? Like that they're not going to wait on it. The major caveat here is to be a competent coder and efficient. Yeah, this really seems like it only really works for programmers. I can't imagine many other jobs could do this. There's just too many meetings. You could pull this off. Quack, you can't even pull off your one editing job and Valorant. You can't even manage that. Those two things. How are you gonna do fucking 19 jobs? You hit Ascendant 3. You haven't edited a video in fucking 4 weeks. I'm actually kidding. It was a funny bit, but Quack's been crushing. Quack actually gave some really detailed notes recently. And turned around 2 fucking sick videos. Just to be clear, just so I'm not being an actual asshole. I like the Quack bit, but now I feel like I'm being an actual asshole. I haven't been paying him, but he's been doing an amazing job. What about you as a founder? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, if we were to hire somebody for off-brand, that's an interesting question. I guess it just really depends on if they're getting the job done, right? Yeah, I guess. Because what you're really saying is like, okay, imagine they didn't work a second job, but they just browsed Reddit or something. Imagine a boss being like, you can't do that. You can't be doing that in your spare time. That would be, we'd all agree it's an absolutely shitty boss, right? So telling them they can't do work in that time on something else is basically the same thing as long as they're getting the job done, right? It's pretty cringe as long as they're doing it. But if obviously they can't do like the basic requirements of the job because they're doing other things, then didn't you basically manage 2 jobs? It's a little bit different because my second job, Twitch streaming is a job, but it's not a job. You know what I'm saying? And it all took place after 7 p.m. at night. There was never a Twitch stream conflict with my day-to-day work. There is some hard parts of streaming and content creation. I'm not going to say it's fucking free. You know, it's still playing video games on a screen. It's not like it's... The biggest conflict was just my stream getting popular enough that interns were joining the company and calling me glizzy hands in fucking company Slack. Dude, everything else was pretty chill.